the famous Jack Pierce, Jack P. Pierce, head of makeup for Universal Studios, in 1931, created the first Frankenstein makeup for the classic series of Frankenstein films produced by Universal Pictures. It was quite a day when he walked onto the set with the head of the monster covered and then unveiled the makeup. It was the beginning of the classic world of monsters and monster makeup. And today, I'm very pleased to be able to honor Jack Pierce at Universal Studios and, of course, Mr. William Henry Pratt, better known as Boris Karloff. So now sit back, relax, and enjoy the making of the classic Universal Frankenstein monster using the techniques that Jack Pierce actually used in 1931. Well, here we are again at the MUA TV studios, and Cody here, our Frankenstein monster, is going to be quite a brave soul today. It's rather hot in the studio. It's unusually hot, to tell you the truth, but we're gonna make it through this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Karloff was not as young as Cody when he played the monster. But Cody has the features. He has the bone structure, the forehead, the nose, the thin lips. The structure of the face is very, very reminiscent of Karloff. And Karloff was actually 42 years of age. He was discovered after having an interesting career in silent films where he went nowhere. He was discovered by James Whale in the Universal Commissary, as the story goes. And Whale immediately recognized the sorrowful look in his eyes, and he was very tall and very gaunt, and he had a lumbering walk. And it was said that when he was not acting, he was delivering mattresses for a mattress company in Los Angeles. I don't know if that's true. Perhaps Sarah Karloff, his beautiful daughter, who's still with us, may be able to answer that one day in an interview that we have here at MUA TV. We'll see if we can get her to come in. But for right now, this is a tribute to Mr. Boris Karloff, to Mr. Jack Pierce, and to Universal Pictures, Universal Studios, as we know it today, for having created all of these wonderful classic Frankenstein films from the 1930s through the 1940s that stand as a monument to all Frankenstein monster films that followed them. All right, so we're going to, first let's do this. Let's take the jacket off. Now, it's been several years, actually, since I've done this makeup. I did this makeup for the first time when I was about 11, 12 years old. And needless to say, it didn't really look very much like Karloff. But as the years progressed, I've gotten pretty good at it. And during the, after Jack Pierce passed away in the late 1960s, I began doing Frankenstein monster makeups. And because I wanted to honor Pierce, I kind of took it upon myself to always do it the way Pierce had done it, or the way I thought he had done it. And I didn't bring prosthetics into the picture. I didn't use any foam latex prosthetics. I didn't take any head casts. I didn't do any of that sort of thing. Didn't do any sculpting. It was always done with latex and cotton, all right? I couldn't find any, well, I had Lee Page's glue, but there was Lee Page's glue, but this is before I actually met Joe Hadley, who was the man who was his assistant, and who informed me that, in fact, it was Lee Page's glue. So anyway, with that all being said, lift up. And the first thing I'm going to do is to make sure his hair comes back a bit. This is a lacquer spray, and they used to use straight lacquer for this sort of thing. And this is a rubber cap that one of my apprentices was kind enough to make for me this morning. And Now, if you were in the real world, you would call Matthew Mungo and you'd say, send me over some brow covers. But we're not, are we? So, improvise. You could take pieces of rubber, if you want, thin pieces of rubber. Or you can take a powder puff bag like this and tear it up. And I'm just doing this to protect his eyebrows. That's it. So don't ever say that you can't do anything on the spur of the moment, especially when it's going to be all covered and nobody's going to see it anyway. Okay. Now, I told you I was going to do it exactly the way Jack Pierce did, right? Well, I am. And now we're going to flatten the top of his head. We're not going to take a mallet out and do any of that sort of thing. I'm going to throw a little latex first over this. Lift up. Okay, now I want you to bring your neck forward in that Karloff thing. That's it. And I'm looking at this piece of cardboard, right? And I'm going to go straight up from here. This is going to be the beginning. This is going to be the back end. And I'm about right here. This is pretty good. And here. This is going to be the front, so we put an F. This is the back. And we do this, turn it this way, do this, turn it this way, come down here, turn this way. There's got to be some semblance of anatomy to it, and I'm just going to do this and this, let them both dry, and then I'm going to place it. Voila. Don't forget, you saw it first here. God, you'd think we'd measured it. We did. Bring this up all the way around. And because we want to create a bit of an anatomical, like a bone structure, we're going to keep this depressed here. I'm going to bring this down. I'm creating edges like this. I'm going to show you something that I discovered in 1968, which seems like a million years ago. Right now, little did I ever think that I would be standing here saying that. This is a material that 3M made, and they don't make it anymore. They haven't made it in 25 years or longer. I had it in my safe. Well, just for this occasion. You can't brush latex over cotton. You can if you want to make a mess. But I don't want to. So I'm going to do this. Now, there are any number of materials that you can use in place of this. Dryer sheets, there you go. So I'm just going to glue this down. Now we're going to just begin our latex skin. I'm going to try and make it lift up, give it a little bit of uniqueness, and following the Karloffian template. But I might go off in another direction here and there with shading to accommodate the uniqueness of the structure. Any of you who are familiar with the monster, you know what I just did there. I pushed that in a little further to this construction. Now you understand why it's called construction makeup. All right, I'm going to take a sponge like so, and I'm going to cut a sliver of it away, like that. And then I'm going to cut a piece off like this, and another piece, making it a specific size. And the last time I did this was years ago down in Florida, and I walked in the next day and the whole class was Frankenstein's monster. Before I do the actual base, I like putting the incision. See, I put the red in first. Now I'm going in with this ink pen. You could use a regular Bic Sharpie. Lift up. You know, keep in mind, there's all different ways of skinning a cat. Now, in the actual Frankenstein makeup, he had the whole top of his head cut off, and it went like this. Now, this is all pre-base stuff that I'm doing here that I will follow. All right, now I haven't done the forehead yet, notice. I haven't done that most important part. I'm setting that for last before I color it. I'm going to get this nice and gummy. Primo, we're going to take a little piece of this. I'm going to pull some threads. Now I'm going to take some Pierce wax, aptly named. This used to be called Dumole when it was used for mortuary use. And then, my trusty tool again, then another company took it and the name changed to Naturoplasto. And now today, it's called Pierce wax. I can't help but think that they did it purposely, you know. I'm going to take this just like this, and I'm going to just lay this right in here like that. Just like that. I'm going to fold this over. Open. Open your eyes.
After having done your eyelids the other day, your black and blue eyes, you have an idea of what this feels like for the actor.
I'm going to make this thinner. This is like going under. So this area right here. Before I apply it, I'm going to throw a little lacquer on it. Take a tongue depressor and work like this. I know that I'm going to want to take some of this out of here, so I'm going to do that right now. Lift up. You can use a nice round lacquered brush, which might even be better. You hold the cotton in place, and then you pull this out. Notice by doing this, I'm able to create that depression of the supraciliary arch. You like that? Supraciliary arch? And some makeup artists think they're doctors. I had that affliction for about 40 years. You can use your fingers too. It's like doing finger waves. And you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overdo the cotton, but at the same time, you want to make sure you don't underdo it. Now, in some of the makeup pictures, you'll see a demarcation line here, especially in the Bride of Frankenstein. That's why, because of the way that I just applied it. And I'm doing that the same way that he applied it. And I don't really care if I see a demarcation line because it's even closer to the way he did it. Okay? This is the focal point of the makeup. So you want to make certain that it is as perfect as you can get it. And in some shots, you'll see up under here. You could see up under it, and it looked like what it was. I'm not putting them down, but I'm just saying, I'm calling a spade here. And they didn't really plan on having the underside photographed, apparently, because you could see up under it. It's all a process of feeling and moving ahead with it, feeling exactly how much you need and how much you can pull away. And it's actually less is more in some cases. Matte adhesive over it. And you'll notice I take the adhesive out of the container and I put it on the cardboard because I want it to aerate. And let me show you this. We want to create a depression here, like a temple. Close your eyes. And can you see how knowing this kind of work will permit you to think on your feet as a makeup artist, and understanding how to improvise, understanding all the amount of cutting, you can cut corners. Now you're going to see some of the wrinkles that are created just like on Karloff here. Now, you can spend 2 weeks sculpting, or you can spend 3 to 4 hours dazzling the production company with your tremendous ability to save them a ton of money and skill. And there's no reason why you couldn't these days, even today, and I'm kind of doing this haphazardly, but if I were going to do this for a real shoot, I'd probably sit him down in the chair for 2 days and just practice this. It's a lot better than taking 2 weeks to sculpt and make molds, and especially if it's not going to be a real tight shot. It's a shot of the monster from somewhat of a distance, even though even sometimes tight it works well. Depends on how much detail you put into it. Now this adhesive, by the way, is about as close to the adhesive, the Lee Page's glue adhesive that I was telling you about. This is the consistency of this. You'll notice it does not pick up the cotton. I went right over the cotton. I didn't have to use the burn cloth. And that I like a lot. All right, now comes the latex. Now this will help. This will build the shell and will also help me to continue to sculpt it. This can be cheated. You can do this with wax, as I've done on MUA TV once or twice. But this is really the way that it's done. And so I'm sculpting with latex and cotton. Put a little latex into this. I prepped this and I made this sponge. I tore it all apart. It's a orange stipple sponge. I'm going to put some latex on it, just like that. And I'm just now going to go all the way around and give it a nice final texture. I'm going to throw a little bit on the ears too, because I want the ears to somewhat have some relationship to the texture on of the skin. I'm going to give him a little more texture right down onto his face because I want the texture to carry through. Because he's so young, you know, I don't want him to be real smooth faced and then real rough up above. I did this several times in the 1970s for a commercial for Shasta Cola. And if you go online, you'll see they have one of them posted. Somebody posted it. And it's called Igor and the Monster. And I've got some great pictures in my portfolio of me in the supermarket with the monster, and we're both sitting in the frozen foods refrigerator, you know, and he's asleep. All right, all of this, as you can see, is fully dependent on the continuity of the application of the latex and sculpting the cotton with the brush so that it has somewhat of a true anatomical relationship. I can go, I don't have to worry about getting it onto the skin area because I'll be putting makeup around it.
And the material you're painting on there would be?
It's just model cement, or model paint rather.
So model paint like you'd use for a model train set kind of stuff?
You could use makeup.
It is.
Before I lay hair, I'm going to make the color. This is a PM color, prosthetic makeup. And I'm taking white and gray, and I've got, this is called Death Gray. This is PM dark blue gray, and this here is Death Green, I believe. All right, and we're going to take our trusty little do-all spatula. Get rid of all that. We're going to start with white. Put it here. A little bit of gray. Put it here.
Everybody's using the PM makeups because it's going over the latex, the rubber.
Exactly. And we're mixing this together. I'm going to put a little green into it too. I'm going to really give him a hideous color. A death-like color. And the color, as you see it here, I've made it kind of gray so that I know what kind of gray scale I'm going to be at in black and white. And you have to understand that colors reproduce various shades of gray in black and white. So you have to somewhat visualize the shadow, the degree of value that the color has. If it's a light value, it'll be a light gray. If it's a medium, it'll be a medium gray, etc. Now I'm putting on a really heavy-duty coating of no color powder so that I can lighten the PM color, and still at the same time retain a green rather than a flesh tone. You can't use a translucent flesh tone powder or you will lose the green. I'm sure he highlighted and shaded, as I'm going to do here.
Mind them, because they're so caught up in the moment, they look at the monitor and trust that as live.
Look up. Now this is black pancake and I'm using it dry. And then I'm going to go back with a damp brush and activate it. We're going to sink in the temples I'm using a dark brown, and I'm going to put some black into it. So what I'm doing is I'm stippling a lot of color and shadows. Then I'm going to go back in with a damp brush, smooth it out, go over it, throw some texture in so that I bring the cap texture down into the face. What I did was I cut a wig apart. See this wig? I cut the back end of it off because I wasn't sure to what extent any of this would work, or if I could squeeze it over his head. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. You know, let me show you. You can cut the back end off of a wig if you really have to make a beard real quick. You can glue this onto somebody's face, and then you can do overlay over it real quick. It's an old television trick. Now, if you're going to do this, make sure it's not a rental. Free myself. Where's it going? I don't care where it's coming from as long as it goes.
The hair that he's using there is a type called Smecolon, and it's really great, even though it's a synthetic plastic, it doesn't have any shininess to it, so it really looks realistic. Some of your more realistic looking cheaper wigs are made out of it, and if you have one, or if there's a wig.
All right, folks. We're going to get rid of the red. Oh, you want to keep the red? We'll leave it around the edges. How's that? So he's a modern kind of. Okay, turn this way. This way. Well, that's kind of fun. Now, I want you to get, I know that if you practice, you'll do better than this, because you've got 40 years on me. And, all right, that is completely from scratch, without any mock makeup or tests.